So this is the review for the 1B quiz, the 1B review. I know the numbering is a little off here, but let's go through these questions. So for number 31, it says give as many names as possible for the angle in the diagram and tell whether the angle appears to be acute, obtuse, right, or straight. So HGM is referring to this angle here. You can either name it using angle MGH, just kind of going the other way. You cannot call it angle G because it's not clear which angle you're referring to then, so that would be the only other way to name it. And then this angle appears to be acute, only because it would be less than 180 or less than 90 degrees. Now another way to name the same angle is, notice here with L, HGL would also represent the same thing, so you could technically name it either of those ways. The next one, HML, is referring to this angle here. So we could either call it again LMH or angle JML would also represent the same angle. So look for extra points that are drawn in there. Now this angle is wider, or almost a little bit more than a 90 degree, which would go straight up. So this is obtuse. All right, for number 33, we're finding the indicating measure. It's using the angle addition postulate, so we would just have to add up 78 plus 69, and we get 147 degrees. Don't forget the degree symbol. That is your form of units when we're working with angles. Number 34, given 118 degrees for angle ADC, measure of angle ADC. So this time we're again using the angle addition postulate. We want to say that together these two angles, 11x minus 7, plus 5x minus 3 will equal 118 degrees, because that is that whole angle. Now when we're done, we're going to find x, but then we also have to go back in and substitute to find angle ADB, measure of angle ADB. So let's find x by first combining some like terms. 11 and 5 is 16x, and then we'd have negative 10 equals 118 for that negative 3 and 7. So 16x would equal 128 when you add that 10. Divide by 16 and you should get 8. But again, don't stop there. You have to substitute back in there for that x because it's angle ADB that we're looking for. So 11 times 8 minus 7 comes out to 81. So our final answer should be written measure of angle ADB equals 81 degrees. All right, down to number 35. This one says, given that KM bisects angle JKL, find two angle measures that are not given in the diagram. So you would be able to know then that if it's being bisected, that this is also 51 degrees. And then if you want to find another angle measure, we want the entire thing, which would then be 102 degrees. So let's write out those two angles. So measure angle JKM is 51 degrees, and the measure of angle JKL, which is the entire thing here, is 51 plus 51, or 102 degrees. So those are the two other angles not given in the diagram. For 36 to 40, I should say 40, we're going to use ideas of linear pairs, vertical angles, and to try to come up with the missing angles. So for angle A here, it's going to be supplementary with 74 degrees. So we want to do 180 minus 74. And that comes out to 106 degrees. So you don't have to show work for these necessarily, it's just working through the diagram. Angle B then is also going to be supplementary with the angle A, or it's a vertical angles with 74, which is then the same. Vertical angles are always congruent. So that's 74 degrees. On to C. Now C shows that it's not 90 degrees, it's showing part of that, which we do know that the entire thing, C and 23 together, are a right angle because it has to be supplementary with the other right angle. So if this is 90, we want to subtract 23 from 90 to find C. And so that comes out to 67 degrees. Now angle D, it got printed on the back side. I'm just going to go ahead and put it here just because we see it on this diagram. Angle D would be this entire thing here. So if angle C is, we just said 67, so is this one here because they're vertical angles. And so for angle D, you want to show 90 plus 67. You're adding those together. So our grand total there is, actually, I'm sorry, you know what? I didn't look at this. Yeah, I think it's referring to this entire thing. If it was just referring to angle D as as this part, it would be 90, but I think the answer key on the posted might say 90 degrees, but I think the best answer there would be 157, because I think it's referring to all of this. But we'll make sure it's clear on a quiz or test which part you're supposed to include. Okay, on to the back. More with angles that are bisected. I just did that one, so ignore that. So given this diagram, we're bisecting angle ABC, so then we know these are congruent, therefore equal, so let's set them equal and solve for x. So remember, only set them equal if you actually know they are equal. So that comes out to 56 equals 4x. Once you move the 3x over and move the 39 over, divide by 4, and you get x is 14. Don't stop there again. You need to find the measure of angle ABC. So to do that, plug into one of these expressions. Let's just do the first one. 3 times 14 plus 17 comes out to, double check. It was 59. So each of these then is 59 degrees. And then you add them up to get your grand total for measure of angle ABC, which is 118 degrees. So read carefully what's being asked to make sure you answer the question properly. Number 41 says plot the points in a coordinate plane and draw angle ABC. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for angle A, or point A, 2, 1 for point B, and 6, 2 for point C. I'm going to connect those. And then it says, given you're classifying this angle, actually I'm sorry, I didn't even need to connect it all, but you're classifying the angle for ABC, so this angle here, and then giving the coordinates for the points that lie in it. So the best way to classify this is you can use slope to help you out here. If I know what the slope is for each of these, I can double check if I have a right angle there or not, because opposite reciprocal slopes create right angles. Don't worry about this too much for the quiz, but just to go through it real quick, this is down 4, right 1. So the slope here is -4, whereas the slope on this one is up 1, right 4. So the slope is 1/4. Since those are opposite reciprocals, we would have a right angle right here. So this would be a right angle. It says then give the coordinates of a point that lies in the interior of the angle. Pretty much anything in here, you could do, say, 3, 3 could be a possibility inside that angle. Right? But again, don't worry too much about the slopes that we checked here. That would be how we know it's opposite reciprocal. So on to complementary, supplementary, vertical, linear pairs, all of that we did the second day. Angle 1 and 2 are complementary. That means they add up to 90. 2 and 3 are supplementary, so that they are adding up to 180. So given this 43, first thing we're going to do is subtract 43 from 90, and that's how you find the measure of angle 2. So the measure of angle 2 comes out to 47 degrees, because 90 minus 43 is 47. Then we want to say that 2 and 3 are supplementary, so to find angle 3, I have to subtract 47. I have to subtract 47 from 180, and that comes out to 133. So the measure of angle 3 equals 133 degrees. Those are the two angles. For number 43, we're finding the measure of angle ABC and the measure of angle CBD. So these two together have to add up to 90 degrees because this is on a straight line. All three angles have to equal 180. If this is already 90, I know then that has to be, ABD has to be 90 as well. So using angle addition postulate here, we're adding up the two angles, setting them equal to 90, and solving. So this comes out to 16x minus 6 equals 90. Continue to solve, this comes out to 16x equals 96 and x equals 6. But again, substitute back in to find each of those measures for angle A, B, C, and CBD. So 11 times 6 minus 2, 66 minus 2 would be 64. And then you can either subtract from 90 for the second one or substitute again. So the measure of angle ABC is 64 degrees. The measure of angle CBD would be 90 minus that, which is 26 degrees. Or again, substitute the 6 back into 5x minus 4. All right, the last part on the bottom here, we are using the diagram to figure out what kind of angles we have. So 1 and 2 are a linear pair. There also are adjacent because linear pairs are always adjacent. 2 and 4 are not vertical angles because they're not just two lines that intersect to have them across from each other, and they're definitely not linear pairs because they're not next to each other or on a straight line. So this would be neither. The last one, I know there's not too much room for this, but we're going to try to write it through here. It says the measure of one angle is 7 times the measure of its complement. So think about, if I think of an angle like x, the other angle, 7x, 7 times it, has to together make a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to add those two up and set it equal to 90, and then solve for x. So x comes out to 11.25, and then find the measure of each of those angles. One of them will be, let's just call it measure of angle. You don't have to write anything with it, but it will be 11.25 degrees. The measure of the other angle, which you could call x and 7x if you want to, but it's 78.75 degrees. Because again, you multiply 7 times 11.25 to get there. Alright, we're going to pause for right now and then I'll continue.